Karna and Arjun fought against each other 3 times. Krishna was always very careful about Karna because he knew that the only person who can kill Arjun is Karna. So he had this Ekagni weapon with him, which if he used it, it would kill him. Krishna knew about it. And that's why during the war, he sends Ghatotkach to fight Karna. If you calculate the score between Arjun and Karna, Arjun wins. I know there are many people who love Karna, but Karna had problem was he was very arrogant. Later on also, during the war, still Arjun was not fully engaging, especially with Bhishma. Vidur himself was known as Dharma. So Yudhishthir comes in. Yudhishthir could have said no. In fact, later on, both Bhim, Arjun, everybody accuses Yudhishthir that why did you accept it?
तो आज के पॉडकास्ट में आप सभी का स्वागत है। उम्मीद है आप सबका दिन अच्छा रहा होगा। तो सबसे पहले मैं अपने गेस्ट से चाहूंगा कि वो हमें अपने बारे में थोड़ा सा बताएं।
Okay, thank you, Mohit, for this podcast. First of all, I'd like to apologize because my Hindi is not very good, so I'll have to speak in English. So I once again apologize for that fact. So a little bit about me. My name is Sudipta Bhawmik. I live in New Jersey, USA, and I am author, a writer, a playwright. I direct plays, I write plays, and we have a theater performance group. And besides that, also I do a lot of few other things. I'm a cartoonist, a blogger, and other stuff. And also uh, on my professional life, I'm an engineer by profession, and especially in the field of electronics and computer engineering area. So that's what my day job is. But my passion is literature, theater, performing arts, stuff like that.
सर आपने आपने अपनी बैचलर्स, मास्टर्स एंड पीएचडी आईआईटी खड़गपुर से की है।
Right, yeah. I did my bachelor's in electronics, master's and PhD in computer science and engineering. And after that, I came to the United States to do job. And since then, I'm here.
ओके, तो कैन यू टेल अस कि व्हाट इज द इंस्पिरेशन कि आपको ऑथर बनना, ये आइडिया कब आपके दिमाग में आया या उसके पीछे इंस्पिरेशन क्या था?
It's not that I wanted to be an author per se. So what I did was I used to write. Since my early teen and when I was in school, college, I used to write starting from the wall magazines to actually printed magazine. We used to edit and publish what we used to call in Calcutta Little Magazine. And since then, we writing and was in. I was used to it, but later on, I also started writing plays and stuff like that. But the thing is that I never. Most of my writing was in Bengali, so I wrote in Bengali, my mother tongue, and I also wrote in English. Several plays are in English, but the thing is that my plays. I published 4 books of plays, but they're all in Bengali from publishers in Kolkata. So this Dwapar Katha, which was published by HarperCollins, is, you can say, my first book in English. So this is my 5th book to whatever I have written. So that's kind of so inspiration. I cannot pinpoint really, but I've been into it since my childhood days.
ओके, तो देयर आर ऑलरेडी सो मेनी बुक्स इन महाभारत के ऊपर ऑलरेडी बहुत सारे बुक्स लिखी जा
Right.
चुकी है, तो व्हाई अनदर वन?
Okay. So first of all, I'd like to tell you that I didn't have the intention of writing a book on Mahabharata, really. Okay. So what I did was about 10 years ago, 2014, I started doing a podcast about Mahabharata. So I used to do a radio show, just like you're doing a show, but not on the internet. It was actually a show here in New Jersey. And there I thought that, okay, I used to do talk shows, interviews, and stuff like that. But then I thought that, okay, why not tell the stories of Mahabharata? Because I'm hooked with Mahabharata from a very childhood age. I love Mahabharata. And so what I did was I started telling the stories in English with the aim to reach out to the young generation, my kids' generation, my children's generation, that, they have missing out, especially kids in this country. And I later found out that in India too, that they miss out this wonderful piece of literature and this our heritage, which is the Mahabharata. So I started telling the stories, and then what happened is one of my colleagues, his name is Avi Ziv, and he is by birth an Israeli. He's an Israeli Jewish person. So he also is a musician, is a sound engineer. He said, I can help you. Let's work together. So then he started doing the sound design, sound engineering, and all that stuff, and also the music, the background score of the podcast. And by the way, podcast, you are doing this video podcast, but podcast is actually the technical term. It is actually an audio file. So we wanted to do the audio thing. It's not the video part of it. So it was mostly in an audio file, and we started doing the podcast. And gradually, when we started it, it was not very popular in India, because in India, podcast itself was very new that time. It was just coming up, and but still, we started gradually. The popularity was growing, and then when podcast started catching on in India, it kind of exponentially started growing. And what happened was, there was, I mean, obviously, multiple times we had media articles, in newspapers and other places. And so people started to know more about it. And then HarperCollins contacted me. So HarperCollins contacted me and said, we like the podcast, and we think it would be great if we can make it into a book. So are you interested? I said, well, this is a good opportunity. I mean, maybe this book can serve as an companion to the podcast, and also because the podcast, my target was that to reach out to the new generation, and in a very simple language, very simple, easy to understand language, and in a dramatic form, in a not going into much description, but more dialogues, such that the inner conflicts of the characters come out. So that's what I was focusing on. And I said that, okay, this can be a new kind of a book compared to the existing books, because most of the existing books are very pedagogic in better I mean, very, the language is very difficult sometimes. That's why the young generation doesn't like those books. And also other books, those are that are there, which are better, but they are like reinterpretations of the story. Okay, so they are going into, each character maybe, and developing it into a different story. So that kind of thing. So I wanted to stick to a different, just the plain and simple Mahabharat, and tell that story in a simple way. And I thought that this can be a new book, especially to reach out to the new generation, to the kids of the new generation. And I'm thankful to HarperCollins for bringing out this book. And so far, what I've heard from from people of your generation, that they are accepting it, they are liking it, and just like they like the podcast. And I feel really blessed to be able to reach out to your generation.
ओके, तो सर इससे पहले कि हम थोड़ा डेप्थ में जाएँ महाभारत की, मैं चाहता हूँ कि आप महाभारत को डिफाइन करें अपने पर्सपेक्टिव के हिसाब से कि आप महाभारत को किस नज़रिए से देखते हो?
Okay, a very good question. I mean, because to many people, Mahabharata is different. Some people treat it as itihas, as history. Some people treat it as a religious text. Uh, I look at Mahabharata as a piece of literature, is a wonderful piece of literature. Whether it actually happened in the past or not, I don't know. Maybe it happened, maybe it didn't happen, but that's not of concern to me. Mahabharata, the text on its own, has is so rich, is so powerful. It can influence us in so deep ways that very few texts in the world can do that. And It's not only one of the oldest epics in the world, it's the largest epic in the world. And people have been, that's why this Mahabharata has been surviving for so long, and people appreciate it. So I look at it from a literature point of view, as the story, the characters. Being a playwright, the characters interest me a lot, because none of the characters are without flaws. They have flaws in them. They have their own deficiencies, and at the same time, they are very rich. They are very strong. So that's the way I look at Mahabharata, and it is and it will always be my favorite text.
ओके, तो देयर इज़ अ बिलीफ सिस्टम, एक मिथ कह सकते हैं आप, कि अगर हम महाभारत को अपने घर पे रखेंगे तो बुरी चीज़ें होंगी, जैसे लड़ाई-झगड़े।
As in my house, multiple different editions from my childhood days. My mother used to read Mahabharata. My so it's always been there. Nothing happened. Okay, and so I cannot say anything about people's beliefs. I mean, if certain people believe it that way, it's okay. But I think having Mahabharata in the house, if even if there is a family feud, even if there is a family, it happens in all families. If in all families, there's sometimes disagreements happen and things like that happen. Maybe that time, if you go and read the Mahabharata, it will give you ways to deal with that problem. Okay, so keep Mahabharata in your library or in your desk somewhere, and if a family problem happens, go and read it. Maybe you will find that there is a solution. So uh, I personally don't believe in that, but well, people have a lot of different kinds of beliefs, and they believe what they believe.
ओके, तो अगर मैं आज बात करूँ आज के समय की बात करें, तो महाभारत को हुए मतलब कितना टाइम हो गया कि
If you're talking about the text, okay, there are two things. I mean, are you treating the Mahabharata as a story when it happened, or is it the question is about the Mahabharata text? Okay, what is your question? What is the question about?
एज़ अ
Text.
टेक्स्ट?
So the text, the historians have a little debate about it. Some say that it happened. They say that the full Mahabharata happened in bits and pieces. So the stories started coming in, and then they developed into the full story. Somewhere between, if I recall the dates correctly, somewhere between 400 BCE, that means which is BC, as we used to call that, and after Christ, AD, about 300 AD. Between that time, so it's a long period. Between that time, the Mahabharata texts were written, and as you know that some even say that some people have even argued that it's even older, but really, because as you know that India has a very the written history of India does not exist that much. Okay, we don't have much of written history about India, especially of the past. And Mahabharata, and just like other scriptures, even like the Vedas and others, it was Shruti. That means it used to be passed down by oral tradition. They used to tell the stories to the next generation, and that's how it spread. So we don't have a written record really, but that's what the historians and pundits, that's what the time period they think when it was written. But there are several different versions of Mahabharata all over the world, all over India and outside India. I mean, in Southeast Asia, there are other all countries there where they have their versions of Mahabharata there. And so, if you are aware of this, in Pune, there is this institute called Vandarkar Oriental Research Institute. They had a long project in trying to, collate all the different versions of Mahabharata and come out with the most common stream. And that's called the Bori critical edition of the Mahabharata, and which people in some sense can say that's an authentic text. So we cannot really pinpoint a date, but that's the kind of period when people think when the text started forming and completed.
ओके, तो अगर मैं बात करूँ रामायण की और महाभारत की, रामायण और महाभारत में दोनों में हनुमान जी का ज़िक्र आता है। तो व्हाट आर द अदर कनेक्शंस जो हमें दोनों में कॉमन दिखाई
Yeah,
देते हैं?
this is very interesting because in the full Mahabharata text, uh, Ramayana is included. Okay, Ramayana in fact is a part of Mahabharata, although chronologically Ramayana happens is during the Treta Yuga, and Mahabharata happens during the Dwapar Yuga, which is after the Ramayana. Okay, so that's why it's interesting that the Mahabharata includes the story of Ramayana, and but in my book, and most of the abridged editions will not go into the details of the full Ramayana there, because that Ramayana is not really exactly the same as the Ramayana that we read. Um, but so what happens is, because it is said that Hanuman is Amar, right? He can never die. He lives forever. So obviously, whatever age it is, Hanuman still exists. So maybe if you believe in that, Hanuman still exists today, as of today. So Hanuman, that's why appears also in Mahabharat, and you have it in the story. In fact, I have an episode in the book where Bhim meets Hanuman, his brother, because both are Pavan Putra, and so they meet and in an interesting, funny situation, and that's how the Hanuman exists in both of the places. And there, Hanuman says that because of this boon or var given to him by Ram and Sita, he lives forever.
ओके, तो अगर मैं बात करूँ जो हस्तिनापुर के जो राजा थे शांतनु, उनके 2 बेटे थे, जो अंबिका और अंबालिका थी। उन्होंने विचित्रवीर से शादी क्यों की? मतलब उसके पीछे की क्या वजह थी?
First of all, let me tell you, when you said two sons, actually, of Satyavati, two sons were born, Chitrangad and Vichitravirya. But Chitrangad died early age, so he was killed in a battle. So Vichitravirya was there, and they were looking for a bride for Vichitravirya, because the the dynasty has to keep on living, has to keep on prospering. And since Devabrata, he Vishma, he promised not to marry, he will never marry, he will remain celibate forever. So they needed to get only the candidate was Vichitravirya. So the episode where the king of Kashi, he was getting his three daughters, Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika, married in a Sayamvar, and that time Bhishma goes, because the the Kauravas of they were not invited. They were not. Hastinapur was not invited to this Sayamvar, because there was some mistrust among the two and some animosity between the two kingdoms. So, yeah, but Bhishma then went and grabbed all three of the princes from there, Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika, to the palace, to Hastinapur. And then Amba says that, I'm supposed to actually, I have already accepted King Shalya of Salya as my husband. So technically, I mean, even I'm not married, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm already his. So then Bhishma and Satyavati sends her back, and she is being rejected, and so on and so forth. And we know that story. That's the entire story of Shikhandi and all that stuff, which happens later on. In fact, incidentally, I have written a play on Shikhandi also, where this entire story is there. And then Ambika and Ambalika were both being given marriage to Vichitravirya. Okay. But then again, Vichitravirya died too, and they had no children, and so then the story goes in another direction.
ओके, तो महाभारत की जब भी बात होती है तो कर्ण और अर्जुन की बात होती है, तो मैं चाहता हूँ कि आप हमें बताएं कि दोनों में से ग्रेटेस्ट वॉरियर कौन था?
Difficult question. How do you judge who's the greatest? It's very difficult to judge. Both had very good training. Both were very well, you know, endowed with all kinds of weapons, blessed by their, in the case of Karna, by Surya, his father, and in the case of Karna, by Indra, and also by others. Now, but if you look into the narrative of the Mahabharata, you see Karna and Arjun fought against each other three times. Okay, one when the Kauravas were, defeated by the um, Gandharvas. Okay, and then second time was during the when the Kauravas went to steal the cows from Virat, king of Virat, and the third was Mahabharata in the Kurukshetra. Both the times, both the first two times, Karna was defeated. I mean, solidly by Arjun. Okay, so if you look into the so even if you look into the history after when the actual fight is happening in the Kurukshetra, Karna was still defeated. But Karna had with him few weapons, and Krishna was always very careful about Karna because he knew that the only person who can kill Arjun is Karna. So he knew that the Bhishma they won't kill Arjun, even if they have the capability, they are not going to kill him. But Karna has no such qualms about it. He promised to Kunti that you'll have, except for Arjun, I won't kill anybody. And he didn't do it. So Krishna knew that Karna can still kill him. So the first time Indra came as dressed as a Brahmin and tried to get his kavach and kundal, from him, and then, but Karna was smart too. He was advised by his father that if Indra comes to you, ask for the Ekagni weapon. So he had this Ekagni weapon with him, which if he used it, it would kill him. I mean, kill whoever it is targeted to. So Krishna knew about it. Okay, and that's why during the war he sends Ghatotkach to fight Karna, and then Karna had to use that weapon against Ghatotkach, and he was left with nothing. So Krishna had knew that it was only Karna. But if you look into the, if you calculate the score between um, Arjun and Karna, Arjun wins. I mean, so we can't say who's the better warrior, but the results show that Arjun was better.
ओके। तो करण की अगर बात हुई है, तो हम करण को दानवीर करण के नाम से भी जानते हैं। काफ़ी दानवीर थे वो। और लेकिन दूसरा आर्गुमेंट ये भी है कि जब द्रौपदी का वस्त्रहरण हो रहा था, उस टाइम पे उसने कुछ अब्यूजिव वर्ड भी कुछ कहा था। एक दूसरे से क्लैश कर रही है। आप बता सकते हैं कि ये क्यों हो रहा है? मतलब एक तो उसकी पर्सनैलिटी कई जगह अच्छी लग रही है, कई जगह बुरी लग रही है, ऐसा क्यों?
So the weakest point of Karna is, I mean, as I told you at the very beginning, the beauty of Mahabharata is that the characters have flaws in them. Karna is that classical tragic hero. Okay, he was, left to die by his mother when he was just born, and then he gets, saved, rescued by Adhirath, his father, and then becomes a great warrior. But then again and again, multiple times he has been, you know um, denied of his rights because of his lineage, because of his father. Of I mean, he was not a kshatriya. He was things like that. It was caste issues were there. um, but Karna had a problem, and that problem, I think, again, it's my interpretation. I know there are many people who love Karna, but Karna had problem was he was very arrogant. Aham. Okay, he had this huge aham in him, and pride and arrogance, which was possibly his greatest weakness. Because he was being rejected, that kind of fueled his anger and his passion, and then he was insults. Each of these insulted stress kind of cumulated. It was had a cumulative effect in Karna, and that was so bad that he kind of almost was not participating in the Kurukshetra war, because earlier Bhishma insulted him so much, abused him so much, that he was so angry that he says, as long as Bhishma is alive, I'm not going to fight. And Bhishma, not alive, and Bhishma is, he has self wish. Unless he wishes himself to die, he won't die. That means, technically, I mean, theoretically speaking, Karna would have never been in the war. And Duryodhan was, I mean, when Duryodhan heard this, he was like, he was hitting his head. What did his friend do? But it was his arrogance was possibly the weakest point of Karna. He lied to his guru, to Parashuram, that he is, a Brahmin, and when he went to go and get the training. So these are the flaws which possibly made Karna what he is. And that's why sometimes we feel that, okay, I have so much sympathy for Karna, but still, why does he do this? Why is he behaving like this? There is reason for it. I mean, the way he's brought up and all that stuff, the insults, he has been facing it all along. And only and the tragedies at the end, he discovers, like almost like a Shakespearean play, that he discovers that his mother comes to him and says that, um, I'm your mother, you are the firstborn of the Pandavas. What a tragedy. I mean, fantastic tragedy. I mean, uh, um, all Bengalis know this famous poem by Rabindranath Tagore. He wrote the Karna Kunti Sambad. It's actually like a poetry drama of between Karna and Kunti conversation. It's so touching, so humbling of that story. So I think I answered it, and but the question is, we all feel for Karna, but Karna had his flaws.
ओके, तो आई एम क्यूरियस, मतलब अभी अभी दिमाग में आया कि शकुनी की मौत कैसे हुई होगी?
Shakuni was killed later on by whom? By, I think, Nakula Sahadev, I don't remember, I can check. But he was killed on the 17, 16, 17, almost at the end of the war. He was killed. I mean, almost unceremoniously. I mean, he was killed. I mean, it just mentions that. I can check and tell you later, but it is, I think, most likely Nakula Sahadev, somebody kills him. So he dies there, Shakuni, on the war.
ओके, तो रीज़न क्या रहा होगा उसकी, मतलब उसके अंदर जो इतना एंगर था उसके अंदर कि मुझे इस कुल का विनाश करना है,
Yes.
तो उसके पीछे की रिवेंज स्टोरी भी है आई थिंक एक शकुनी की, कि वो उसकी फैमिली को मार दिया गया था। थोड़ा-सा उसके बारे में ब्रीफ बता सकते हो थोड़ा-सा?
Well, this is not in the I mean the Krishna Devan Vyasa's Mahabharata that we read. Um, I don't find this backstory mentioned too much. Okay, but there are other versions where this backstory is, and people have worked on it and found out that when Bhishma plays a role here and takes Pandu and to get married to Pandu and Dhritarashtra. The Pandu was married to Kunti and Madri, but for Dhritarashtra, they go to Gandhar and which is currently Kandahar in Afghanistan. That's what we know. So and gets married to the daughter, and so Shakuni was not very happy with that. They were not, no, nobody were happy, but they were so powerful. This Bhishma, especially, they comes and when he demands that his um, daughter be getting married to Dhritarashtra, the blind king, because he was blind, he felt that this Bhishma took advantage of them, and it shouldn't have been right. And so that's why he always had a feeling that he didn't like it. He thought that he wanted to take revenge on them. But if you look into in the story part of it, Shakuni plays an important role uh, till the dice came and sending them off and all that stuff. Once the war is decided, once the war starts, Shakuni doesn't play much of a role. Okay, Shakuni is just another warrior. I mean, yeah, whenever Duryodhan consults, Shakuni is there, but it's not that he plays any significant role in the war. So, as far as the revenge is concerned, we don't see him do anything special for that. At least the Mahabharata that I read. Okay, and there are other texts which may have something different. And what I say in the most interviews and talks, what I always claim that I am not a Mahabharata scholar. Okay, don't take me as a Mahabharata scholar. I mean, there are many people who are, and I respect them, but I'm not. So I love Mahabharata, but that doesn't mean I have an extensive knowledge about the details of the intricacies. But what I know is after that, once the war starts, when the Udyog Parva happens and the starts, Shakuni doesn't play much of a role.
ओके, तो जो भगवान कृष्ण थे, उन्होंने भगवत गीता सिर्फ अर्जुन को ही क्यों सुनाई? बाकी किसी को क्यों नहीं सुनाई?
Because others, I think others didn't need it. So Arjun was Kauravas bet their not sorry, not the Kauravas, the Pandavas bet their everything on Arjun. They depended on Arjun and Bhim to some extent. If Arjun was not available, if Bhim was not available, so they would give up. Even Arjun was the main thing. So one incident I'll tell you that later on what happens when Drone becomes the chief, when Senapati. Drone becomes, because after the death of, not death, I mean Bhishma falls, after Bhishma falls, Drone becomes, and so Duryodhan, he says, Duryas, Drone says to Duryodhan, I mean, tell me what do you expect of me? What do you want me to do? So then Drone says, go and capture Yudhishthir for me. I don't want you to kill him. Don't kill him. Capture him and bring him to me in chains. Yudhishthir, Drone said that yes, I can do it for you. But as long as Arjun is there, I cannot do it. If as long as Arjun protects Yudhishthir, I cannot do it. So arrange somehow to keep Arjun away, far away, and then only I can do that, my job. So what happened was this Samsaptas were formed. You know, the Trigartas, they created this special force called the Samsaptas, who sort of took the vow that either they kill Arjun or they die. Okay, and so they took up the job of distracting Arjun away. So Arjun was the only person who was crucial. So if Arjun that day, when he collapsed on the first day, if he suddenly said, I cannot fight, I am going to the forest, I cannot do it, then Yudhishthir had no hope. Pandavas had no hope. So Krishna had to, uh, you know, uh, act as a therapist, you call it, okay, or as a guide, as a friend, philosopher, guide to, revive him, to rekindle him, and help him find his purpose. So that's why Krishna said this to Arjun. And in fact, later on also, during the war, I mean, still Arjun was not fully engaging, especially with Bhishma, with Drona. He was not fully engaging. And several times Krishna had to intervene. You know, at one point, Krishna himself got off the chariot and went to fight. He says, "You are a failure. You can't do anything, it seems." And he went to fight, and then Arjun stopped him. So so that's to me that's the reason. But let me say this one thing: the messages of seven of Gita, Bhagavad Gita, were also said, something very similar things were also said by Vidur in other occasions to the Pandavas and even to the Kauravas, because Vidur himself was known as Dharma, right? So Vidur also guided them with the same laws of dharma, as which Krishna later on so beautifully enunciates to Arjun, to revive him, to resuscitate him, to get him back into upon his feet. Okay, so I don't think others needed it. Others didn't need that thing.
ओके, तो व्हाट आई थिंक, मुझे क्या लगता है कि अर्जुन तो बस एक बहाना था कि भगवत गीता जो थी, कृष्ण चाहते थे कि वो हनुमान जी सुने, जो रथ पे थे, हनुमान जी जो रथ पे बैठ, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि मतलब अर्जुन के बहाने उन्होंने हनुमान जी को सुनाई थी।
Well, that
आई थिंक सो।
I don't know. I mean, that's what I learned from you now. I haven't heard about it. I mean, I'm sure there were others, but yeah, besides Hanuman on top, because it was Kapit Dhwaj Rath. Yeah, the Rath was far away from the Pandava warriors, so others most likely couldn't listen to it. But Sanjay had this vision, and Sanjay could see and hear, and that's how he retold it to Dhritarashtra. So Dhritarashtra also listened to it, right? So Dhritarashtra also knew what was going on and what Krishna was telling Arjun. But yeah, maybe, but I don't know whether that was the reason. Why would you want Hanuman to listen to it?
मे बी रामायण के वक़्त उन्होंने जब कृष्ण जी मतलब द्वापर युग में तो वो कृष्ण जी थे, लेकिन उससे पहले
विष्णु के
वो
अवतार, both are
श्री
विष्णु
राम
के
थे।
अवतार, right? Yeah, Ram as
जी,
well.
जी। तो वो उस समय उन्होंने मदद की थी हनुमान जी ने, तो इसलिए शायद सुनाई हो, या कुछ उसके पीछे कोई रीज़न
Yeah,
हो सकता है।
I don't know. This is news to me. I mean, I'm learning it from you. Thank you.
नहीं, आई आई थिंक सो, ऐसा मुझे लगता है सर, मतलब मैं ये क्लेम नहीं कर रहा।
Possibly, yeah.
आई थिंक दिस इज़ द ब्यूटी ऑफ महाभारत, कि मतलब इसके काफ़ी सारे हम इंटरप्रेट मतलब
Yes,
कर सकते हैं
yes,
अलग-अलग
yes.
चीज़ें।
And that's what many authors did. Many authors do that even today. They do deep analysis. I mean, I'll tell you one very interesting book I read, and that is there are many books like Iravati Karve's book and others. So in Bengal, there was this very good writer and poet and writer and scholar named Buddhadev Basu. And Buddhadev Basu was also a Mahabharata scholar. He wrote about Mahabharata a lot. His wife, Pratibha Basu, was also a writer. And he, later on in his life, he wrote a version of Mahabharata, which was completely contradictory to the way we see Mahabharata today, where in fact, in the Mahabharata, whom we think as the heroes and the whom we think as villains, her logic, the way she writes on the logic, completely turns it upside down. So it's a completely different take on the Mahabharata. So people have done a lot of, I mean, that again, as you said, that's the beauty of Mahabharata. I mean, people get deep into it and create new things out of it, find new meanings, create new meanings. There's so many films made on the basic lines of Mahabharata, right? Not the Mahabharata, but on modern interpretations of Mahabharata. Sham Benegal did, and others did too. Yeah.
ओके, तो ड्यूरिंग द हाइडिंग ऑफ अर्जुन, जब वो छुप रहा था अर्जुन, तो ही हैज़ टू पोज़ एज़ अ वुमन, और विराट की जो महाराजा विराट जो थे, उनकी जो पुत्री थी, उनको वो डांस और म्यूज़िक
Right.
सिखा रहे थे। आई कैन अंडरस्टैंड देयर मस्ट बी सम रीज़न, बट वो रीज़न क्या था? वो ऐसा क्यों कर रहे थे?
Well, that's a very interesting reason. First of all, I'll tell you the story, but I would like you and your listeners to read this in the book, in Dwapar Katha, and you will know it better. But what happened is that during exile, Arjun went to the heavens, to Indra, to get the weapons he needed for the coming fight, war. So when he went to Indra in the heaven and he was training in the new weapons and all, at the evenings he used to attend Indrapuri, the dance and the recitals and the music sessions of concerts of the Apsaras and the musicians there. And there he saw Urvashi perform, okay, every day, and he used to love it, and he used to be so enchanted by it. In fact, Indra told him, why don't you learn? So Chitrasen, one of the musicians, used to teach him music and dance to Arjun. So Arjun was taking lessons from him, but whenever Urvasi came, he used to look, I mean, to completely, mesmerized at Urvasi. So Indra thought that maybe Arjun is developing some infatuation towards, attraction towards Urvasi, and so he instructed Urvasi to go and see Arjun and you know uh, befriend him, that kind of thing. So Urvasi comes to Arjun and says, I'm here for you, and Arjun says, what are you doing? You're like my mother. I look at you because you were in my some. He gave that history. I don't remember it right away about his ancestors, where like the concerts of those ancestors of the Pandavas. So I treat you like my mother. I don't look at you with any lust, with any kind of lust or any love. I simply appreciate your beauty and your dance and your art. But Urvasi was very upset with it, and so she cursed him that you rejected me. Nobody dared to reject me. So for that, you'll have to serve as a, you know, for it finally it was negotiated down to 1 year you have to serve like a woman in, napumsak really, not woman even. So that was the thing. So during the Virat's, when he was in hiding for after the 12 years, the 13th year, Arjun decided to be that. And that's why he took the, guise of transformed himself like a, what we call these days a transgender and or transvestite. So he um, um, made up himself as a woman, Brihannala, and used to teach dance and music because he knew dance and music from, he learned earlier from Chitra Singh. So he used to teach it to Uttara. Uttara was Virat's daughter. So that's the kind of the story. So he performed his curse. I mean, his curse was, that was a curse he had to live through.
ओके, तो मेरा अगला सवाल ये है कि कृष्ण जी को जब शिशुपाल काफ़ी सारे अब्यूज़िव वर्ड्स बोल रहे थे, उन्होंने उस टाइम पे उस टाइम मारा नहीं, मतलब उन्होंने 100 मौके दिए थे उन्हें। तो आफ्टर दैट कृष्ण जी ने उनको अपने सुदर्शन चक्र से, आई थिंक हम जितना मैंने महाभारत टीवी सीरीज़ देखा है, उसके अकॉर्डिंग, तो वो तो हमें समझ में आ गया कि उन्होंने मौके दिए थे, उन्होंने चांस दिए थे, बट उन्होंने बाकी लोगों को क्यों नहीं मारा? जैसे शकुनी हो गया, दुर्योधन हो गया और कोई?
Others never abused Krishna. Never. I mean, they at the end they all recognized Krishna to be the all-powerful God and all. Duryodhan went to Krishna because you remember that episode where Duryodhan and Arjun they go to Krishna to get him for the to join them, and the only thing was that uh, Arjun was sitting at the towards his leg when he was sleeping, and Duryodhan was sitting near the head, and so and Krishna used that as an excuse to join with Arjun. So both wanted his help. Both were, and Duryodhan was always. They knew that Krishna was like Bhagavan. I mean, he has these superpowers, and of course, getting Krishna on their side would have been very helpful, and they knew that. So if you look into it, Duryodhan or any of the Kauravas did not abuse, they never used abusive language or insults to Krishna. What they did was when Krishna went as a messenger during the Etu, and asked for 5 villages, that time they tried to capture Krishna, imprison him. That's what they wanted to do. Later on, also, like even Jarasandha or others, I mean, they um, said that Krishna, what you're doing is not right. I mean, they have often accused him of not doing the right thing. Okay, later on, when Duryodhan, when Bhim breaks Duryodhan's legs, he says that thigh. He says that Krishna, how could you do this? You, you're supposed to be God righteous. I mean, the God Himself, and you are doing this, not following the rules. So they are accusing him, but I I never heard anywhere they are hurling insults at Krishna the way Shishupal did. And as you know that Krishna said that I will pardon 100 such insults from Shishupal, and that's it. So I think Duryodhan and others, whatever when they said, it never went to that extent. I mean, maybe once or twice they said something not as abusive, but as a complaint, as a, and that's what I think is, I mean, answering your question.
ओके, तो इट मे साउंड वियर्ड कि दुर्योधन जो था इतना बुरा था क्या? मतलब उसमें कुछ तो अच्छाई होगी।
Um, Again, that's the beauty of Mahabharata. Duryodhan really was. He had a point, though. I mean, if you look into it, I mean, all over his places. Think about it. Think about the past backstory. What happens? since he was born, they'll say that okay, there was some bad omens, bad signs, and all that stuff. But his father loved him. Gandhari loved him. They didn't want to kill. Whatever it happens, they accept their son, right? But then suddenly one day, this lady Kunti comes from the forest with five boys and claims this Yudhishthir is the oldest and is older than Duryodhan. Now, and everybody accepts it. If you read the Mahabharata text, Krishna Daipandra's Mahabharata's text, they say that the messengers gave him that news that Kunti had a son called Yudhishthir. But Gandhari was pregnant even before Kunti. She was not able to, give birth, and their birth was, finally, that after a long time of thing carrying the inner womb, and then the ball of flesh was there, and then broken it up into small pieces, and all that stuff happened, and that's why the 100 sons were born. But was really Yudhishthir older than Duryodhan? I mean, if you think about it, there rise a question. Okay, but people accepted it. Okay, fine. Since he was, then again, he was the older son of the king, right king, Dhritarashtra. Okay, and after him, he was not giving the throne. The throne was taken up by Yudhishthir. Okay, and that thing happened. But what was Duryodhan's problem? Duryodhan then Shakuni and all said invite them for this dice and all that stuff. So Yudhishthir comes in. Yudhishthir could have said no. He was not forced, right? He was not forced to play the game. He was challenged to a game and he accepted. In fact, later on, both Bhim, Arjun, Draupadi, everybody accuses Yudhishthir that why did you accept? It is because of you all this thing happened, right? So it is very difficult to pinpoint that Duryodhan was evil. Yes, what bad did he do? He did some bad stuff. He tried to kill the Pandavas in Varanavada, tried to burn them. Okay, he tried to insult Draupadi by dragging her into the court and trying to disrobe her, make her a slave. Okay, so those are really very bad deeds. And then finally, he was again. I mean, he invites them for the second time, and Yudhishthir comes back again. I mean, does there any logic? I mean, any smart guy would have said, "Forget it. I'm not going again." Okay, I'm happy here. I don't want to play with you again. And even if I play, I'm not going to play with Shakuni. He could have said that. No, he doesn't. He is too arrogant. He is too proud that, I mean, I'm going to accept. And somehow he thinks that they are not going to cheat him. I mean, I don't know. Everybody knew that Shakuni is going to cheat. So, so that's that. But that's what makes a story so interesting. That's what makes it so interesting. But it is a perception. We are made to perceive that that's the adharma, that's the dark side. And the beauty is that's why it is very difficult to judge what is right and what is wrong. For a human being, how do you judge what is right, what is wrong? What may be right for me may not be right for you. Okay, so that's the fine line, and that's what Mahabharata. That's why people. I mean, you need to possibly keep reading Mahabharata again and again and again to try to understand those how to travel the thin line. And that's why when Krishna says at the end that don't bother about it, just surrender yourself to me, and I'll take care of everything. But unfortunately, we can't do that.
ओके, तो कृष्ण जी के जो बड़े भाई थे बलराम, उन्होंने क्यों नहीं उस जंग में हिस्सा लिया? वो भी तो रोक सकते थे।
Yeah, but Krishna, in fact, Balaram is also regarded as one of the avatars. I mean, some in some places of the Das avatar, he was also regarded as an avatar, right? But Balram, at one point, when Duryodhan, he was Duryodhan's guru, right? And so when Duryodhan went to him and asked for his help, Balaram said, "No, I'm not going to participate in this war on either side, because Krishna is on the other side, and Krishna is my brother. I cannot be against him." He walked away, simply straight. So he kept himself away from the thing. In fact, Balaram always favored the Kaurava side. Okay, and but he did not maybe take an active role, because if he had taken an active role, that would have been an interesting thing to see. Another family feud would have happened between Krishna and Balaram. So to avoid that, Balaram said, "Okay, I'm hands off." Okay, that's the only reason I can find out. Otherwise, and that's the one incident I told you where he clearly says, "I don't want to join any side."
ओके, तो आई एम गोइंग टू आस्क हाइपोथेटिकल क्वेश्चन। अगर पांडव की जगह कौरव जीत जाते तो आज का समय कैसा होता?
Very interesting question. Very interesting question. You know what? If you look at I mean, when you read it, when you read Mahabharata, when the Kauravas ruled in Hastinapur, I don't see. I mean, in fact, their disciple, their subjects were not unhappy, really. In fact, at one place when they were sent to Varnavata and all, it says that Duryodhan took extra care for them, for his subjects. Okay. So he took care for them. He took. I mean, he was a pretty. I mean, ruler. No, I haven't. I don't know. Did you ever read anywhere Duryodhan doing any atrocious things against his own people? I'm not aware of that. Okay. So, so even if the Kauravas had won, okay, if Duryodhan was in the helm, I mean, I don't know if what Dussashan was there, so Shakuni, what happened, I don't know. But Duryodhan, I don't think there would have been a huge difference, really. Okay. It is essentially a fight within the family. And the Kauravas and the Pandavas also had rightfully, they said, "Okay, we accepted everything, right? King Dhritarashtra gave us Indraprastha. We took it. There was nothing there. It was barren land. We developed it into a beautiful city. We did that. We're happy with it. You defeated us, fine. We went to the forest, came back. You don't want to give us our kingdom? Give us 5 villages. Nothing more. We will build up again." They didn't give them. So it was only an ego clash between the two. You know what? When I told you about Duryodhan is asking Drone to capture Yudhishthir. Don't kill him. Capture him and bring him. He says, "Why? Why do you want me to? Why don't you want me to kill him?" Then Duryodhan says, "No, no, no. If you kill him, his brothers are going to hunt me down and kill me. But if you capture him, I'm going to send him again to the forest for another 13 years." Okay. So, so I don't want to kill them. I want them to be out of sight, because even if I kill them, I become the villain. My people don't like me. My his brothers would kill me. So, it's a completely a family drama. Think about it. In a family, there are two brothers. Okay, both are okay. They do well. But between them there is a ego clash, and there is a property, and that property, they both of them claim their rights to it. छोटा भाई कहता है कि हमको नीचू तला दे दो, बड़ा भाई से नहीं, हम नहीं देंगे, तुम जाओ, तुम बाहर गए, तुम जाओ. It always happens.
ओके, तो कौन कौन से मेजर इवेंट्स थे जो हुए हैं महाभारत के बाद?
Major things that happened was, I mean, first of all, Yudhishthir taking the throne, becoming the uh, king, but he lets Yudhishthir and Dhritarashtra and Gandhari, they stay with them, and Yuyutsu, the one of the brothers of the Kauravas, also represent them, and but Yudhishthir was not happy. None of the Pandavas were happy. Another incident happens was that when Gandhari was very upset, and both Dhritarashtra and Gandhari were upset, and they tried to kill them and things like that. Another major event happens just after it is when they are revealed, when the Pandavas get to know that the Karna was their brother. Okay, so that's another incident. Um Bhishma dies. Okay, there is a long episode where Bhishma gives a lot of advice to the Pandavas because Yudhishthir goes into a deep depression. He kind of cannot function. Then Krishna also kind of couldn't revive him. So he advises, go to Bhishma and he will help you. So he goes to Bhishma. Bhishma helps him a little, but still not much. Then they do the Ashwamedh Yagya. So that's another major event that happens after they did the Rajsuya earlier, then they do the Aswamedh Yagna after that. And then later on, the Gandhari and Dhritarashtra, Vidur, they go to the forest, and then finally they die there, and then they go to the Mahaprasthan. That means they go to the heavens. The Pandavas go to the heavens, and major event happens is that is Kali Yuga starts actually, and the Yadu Vangsha, Krishna's family, they kill themselves. They all die. Dwarka is submerged under the sea, and Krishna dies. Right, Krishna and Balram both die. So those are the main events that happens after that, but after the war. But one big lesson which Mahabharata teaches us that war is, whether you win it or lose it, it's a losing game always, even after you win it. And so they thought that they would be very happy after the win, but none of the Pandavas could be happy. Yeah, it was miserable for them really after the war.
ओके, तो अभी कलयुग चल रहा है, तो आफ्टर द एंड ऑफ कलयुग डू यू थिंक कि फिर से द्वापर युग आएगा, फिर से सतयुग आएगा?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. And after Kali Yuga, Satya Yuga is supposed to come back, and then Treta and Dwapar. Um, I don't know. I mean, even if it happens, I mean, uh, see, everything is in hindsight, right? I mean, people who, when they were in Dwapar, didn't know what's going to happen next, and then Treta didn't know what's going to happen next. So similarly, what we are now here, I heard my grandfather saying, Kali Yuga chal raha hai now. I mean, soon Satya Yuga will come and everything will be great. Okay. I don't know whether it will be great. I mean, if you look into the history of Mahabharata, was Dwapar great Yuga? I don't know. Okay. So much bad things happened during the Ramayana time also. So in the Treta. So it's not really um, uh, if Satya Yuga happens, so Dwapara happens, everything is going to be as they say hunky dory, but it's not going to be like that. But but we but these are the text, these are the scriptures, if you say, or the texts, and That's why they're the classics, and that's why some people think they're holy texts. Is something that um, teaches us how to deal with it. Okay, well, we don't learn from them, but that's what it teaches. I mean, there's so many wars going around all around the world right now. Okay, so many wars going around the world, and then if you now read the Bhagavad Gita, then you will find that, well, this was maybe supposed to happen. This war, what's happening is supposed to happen. I mean, you don't know. I mean, it's a very difficult situation to deal with it. So, um, only thing that within yourself, every person in his lifetime possibly goes through Satya, Treta, Dwapar, Kali. Okay, and in various cycles. So in the life also the cycles keep on going, and so within ourselves, if we can bring in that sense of Satya Yuga, that may be a great blessing. That may be a great thing. I maybe that's what we should strive for instead of trying to sit and hope that Satya Yuga will come and everything will be good.
ओके, तो रैपिड फायर राउंड, इसमें मैं आपसे कुछ सवाल पूछूंगा जिनका आपको बहुत जल्दी से जवाब देना है.
Okay, if I can, I don't know
ठीक
if I
है,
can. Okay,
यू कैन टेक योर टाइम.
okay.
ओके, तो इफ टाइम ट्रेवल इज पॉसिबल, तो व्हाट आर द थिंग्स दैट यू वुड लाइक टू चेंज इन द पास्ट?
Nothing.
ओके, तो व्हाट इज द लास्ट बुक यू रेड?
A book by Haruki Murakami, and the last book that I'm reading right now is a book about the scientific development during the pre-independence and post-independence India. What?
ओके, अगर आप एक महाभारत के करेक्टर हो तो आप कौन सा करेक्टर प्ले करना चाहोगे?
Tough question. Bhishma.
ओके, अगर आपके पास एक सुपर पावर हो कोई भी, तो आप आपके पास कौन सी सुपर पावर होगी और आप उसका किस तरीके से इस्तेमाल करोगे?
To bring in good in somebody.
ओके, अगर मैं आज आपको $1 मिलियन दे दूं तो सबसे पहली चीज आप क्या करोगे?
Try to help those who need it.
ओके, इंडिया और यूएसए दोनों में से आपको एक ऑप्शन चूज करना है.
India.
ओके, तो डू यू मिस इंडियन फूड?
No,
आपको
I
याद आती
don't,
है?
because I eat Indian food almost every day at home. Okay, I also eat Indian food outside. In US, there are so many Indians around. We don't miss that much, and every year I go to India, and so yeah, not much really. It's not that I miss Indian food, but I miss India. I mean, if you say that the the color, the texture, the life, the warmth of people. I mean, the noise, the chaos. That's what I miss.
ओके, तो बिफोर रैपिंग द पॉडकास्ट, आप हमारे जितने भी लिसनर्स हैं, आप उनको कुछ कहना चाहोगे?
Yes, I mean, only thing that I would say is that read the Mahabharata. Okay, I mean, this is, if you haven't done so, uh, well, I have written this Dwapar Katha. You can read Dwapar Katha if you want. Dwapar Katha is published by HarperCollins. Dwapar Katha, full title is Dwapar Katha, The Stories of the Mahabharata. I have a podcast which is called The Stories of the Mahabharata. You can listen to it. But it doesn't have to be my book or my podcast. You, whatever comes to your hand, whatever version, whatever language. By the way, just since we're you're talking in Hindi. Dwapar Katha, HarperCollins is translating and soon will be released in Hindi too. So a Hindi version is coming out from the for Dwapar Katha also. So read whatever version of Mahabharata is there, and and I'm telling you, you'll never regret it because it is our heritage. I mean, you will feel proud when you read it. You will feel proud to be an Indian. I mean, with all the flaws, with all the defects, with all the problems that we still have this rich heritage, and just don't ignore it, don't miss it, and then you will be missing a huge part of what is India, what is Indianness. And you may be of,
Thank you, sir. For,
and you may be of any religion. You may be of, you may be Hindu, you may be Muslim, you may be a Christian, whatever religion, doesn't matter. Read the Mahabharata.
थैंक यू सर फॉर कमिंग टू द पॉडकास्ट. आपसे बात करके काफ़ी अच्छा लगा. उम्मीद है आपको भी लगा होगा.
Yes, I liked it a lot. Thank you very much, and I wish the best of luck for you and your listeners, and may your journey of life be great and successful.